spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ spreads confusion
Hey everybody, it is Thursday, February 23rd. I almost said January there. A month behind apparently. This is Non-Religious Life. I'm your host Ken. With me all the way across the country we have Bob.
How's it going?
And Jason.
Hey.
And Jason's kind of sick, so he's going to be kind of quiet today.
Let's unmute Bob.
Awesome. I was muted. Good.
I was like, he doesn't sound loud.
Bob, I'm really glad that you want to talk about these Galileo was wrong people, because
Yeah,
I feel like we didn't touch on it as much as we could have last week.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I'm just like I read the paper that we were talking about from the last show where it was what was it, Darwin, Einstein, or Darwin, Newton, and Einstein at the end of their ropes.
Yeah.
And I read it, and I was like, oh my God, this is a level of stupidity that I don't know how to deal with. And it's so glaringly wrong and out of whack.
Like, give an example.
And I wasn't sure. Well, it's willfully ignorant. It twists the facts. It demonstrates misunderstandings, and it puts blinders on itself. For instance, one of the first things that she says is where she's sort of refuting Darwin, and she says that, and I say she because I think the author's a she because it's unclear even who wrote it. But she says, like, assuming it's a she, that one of the things that if Darwin were correct, evolution would predict the presence of transitional species in the fossil record. And then they make the statement, and there have never been any such transitional species. And I was like, what? Like, obviously this person doesn't know about tectonic or Archaeopteryx or the whole slew of transitional fossils that show the progress of whales from land animals to sea animals. It's pretty well figured out. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And so rather than, so what I did was I wound up giving the paper to a friend of mine who's he's like a research chemist out in Virginia Beach and a real big science guy. And I think I broke him. Like, he lost his shit over this paper. He went nuts. Like, I really think I broke him.
That's funny.
And so I got to thinking about, like, I mean, obviously I could look at that paper and pick and choose the things that are demonstrably false in it, right? We could all do that. We could just tear it apart. It wouldn't even be hard. I mean, obviously this person, not only are they ignorant of the facts, but like they don't even know how to use the internet, and they've never heard of a resource like, I don't know, Wikipedia or the dictionary or the encyclopedia. It's just really bad. So I started thinking about, like, why would somebody do this? Like, and I don't think that in this person in their paper, they weren't trying to sell me a book. They weren't trying to get money out of me. They were really trying to sincerely espouse an idea. And I've been wondering, like, why do they do this? Why do they cling to this? Why, what is going on in their head? Because, I can joke and say that, this is the work of a crazy person, but I don't really think that's true. And so I've been trying to find reasons why people do this. And I sort of stumbled upon, I guess it's a relatively new, it's a new way of thinking in neuropsych, or it's just maybe psychology, and they call it motivated reasoning. And it's this.
It's exactly how it sounds.
Right. It is exactly how it sounds. But so in a nutshell, motivated reasoning is this instance where, like, you and I may go, we may have a question, and like this is our question, and then we seek answers we seek an answer to the question, and then evidence for the answers. Whereas in motivated reasoning, it's here's the answer that I want, and now I'm going to look for evidence that supports my presupposed conclusion. And it's all like wrapped up in feelings too, where like feelings come first and facts come second. And you only sort of expose yourself to the facts that support your feelings.
Yeah.
And I think like
really
the psychology journals are just starting to talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really close to cognitive dissonance. From what I've read about it, it seems like it's a manner of reasoning used to ease the bad feelings caused by cognitive dissonance.
Right. That's exactly what I read too. Is they said it's a mitigating strategy for dealing with cognitive dissonance, because cognitive dissonance is unpleasant, and so this is I don't know if they're going to say it's an evolved strategy, but I guess it would have to be. But it's a strategy for dealing with cognitive dissonance. When your worldview is challenged, this is how you deal with it. Whether you do it, but that's the thing though. You're doing it subconsciously. It's not like you. I mean, I say willfully ignorant all the time, but I don't think that this motivated reasoning is done consciously. I think it's done. I think it goes under the radar.
You don't think people intentionally want to be wrong? They truly and sincerely believe the things that they're saying, no matter how.
And oddly enough, from what I could tell, this sort of new way of thinking about thinking, and I love thinking about thinking. This new way of thinking about thinking evolved again. It sort of came out of the studies in our perceptions and feelings and thoughts on the war in Iraq. And there was a group that did a study where they were showing that in the 2004 election, the perceived ties between Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden in the 9/11 attacks, they were very, very strong. And people believed that there was a tie there, and it influenced the election. And even when presented with conflicting evidence, people still held on to that belief. And I think at that time they were calling it it was inferred justification.
Is this? Oh,
and what they came up with was I don't know, this new way of looking at our flawed logic. And they showed that when the stakes are really high, when something's really, really important, we tend to infer reasons that it must be so from the simple fact that it needs to be so. I guess I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know if I'm making much sense.
No, I think I either this is the same study or there's one very similar, but it kind of started off with looking at people with conspiracy theories and dealt with the 9/11 towers and asked, what reasonable people would believe in conspiracy theories and stuff, and they came out pretty much with the same thing. Is that as what you're saying here? Well,
I mean, these guys weren't looking at just the well, that's interesting too, because there's still a lot of people that have that. But I think that 9/11 truther community is sort of a fringe of a fringe. They're way outside.
Well, no, there wasn't just it wasn't necessarily just the truthers. It was also it took the full range of people believing that it was either an inside job or that it was a full spectrum. I don't have it in front of me,
well,
it was very similar to what you were saying.
Yeah, well, these guys were trying to find a mechanism for that why that happens. Not just, I don't know. They weren't just sort of reporting on the data. They were trying to really like lead when they gathered data in like these interviews and they were trying to find the mechanism by which we trip ourselves up, and so I I don't know, like I just think that that this person who wrote this paper about Darwin, Newton, and Einstein being at the end of the ropes, I think it's a really good example of mitigated reasoning, because they have they're espousing a geocentric worldview. It's tied up in their theology. The stakes are very high for this to be true. And so they have unconsciously blinded themselves to the world around them. I mean, they've started with a conclusion and found evidence to support that at the same time ignoring all the contradictory evidence around them. And
that happens all the time.
It does happen all the time, and I don't know. I just, like I said, you sound lovely.
Thank you.
I don't know. I like thinking about how we think, and when you know those things, when you recognize those things, it allows you to make more rational judgments because you're aware of the pitfalls.
And cognitive science is really interesting like that, because you get to understand not just how people think, but why people think that way.
Yeah,
it's kind of fascinating. I remember when I first discovered the concept of cognitive dissonance. I mean, it blew me away. Like, I was like, everything makes so much sense now. Like, growing up in sort of like around very, very religious people, not necessarily in my family, but just friends of family who are extremely religious. And I was like, how can you disregard all of this knowledge we have? And it was just like, just these blinders on. And when I learned about cognitive dissonance while I was in college, I was like, everything makes so much sense. Like, my whole childhood makes sense now.
Yeah, it all comes together.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we mentioned cognitive dissonance a lot. We all sort of understand how it works, but this new way of thinking about how we deal with it in terms of mitigating it or avoiding it altogether, I think that's pretty interesting. This idea of motivated reasoning, and like one of the examples they gave of motivated reasoning is they showed two groups of people a sports game, and Group A went to a school that supported Team A, and Group B went to a school that supported Team B, and the two teams played, and they showed the participants the same video of the same game, and depending on which team you were rooting for, that influenced your perception of the referee's calls. And which seems like there's a no-brainer, right? But what they were saying was that the reason we do that is because, and that's an example of motivated reasoning, where we sort of, the calls that go in our favor is the ref doing a good job, and the calls that go against us is the ref doing a bad job. And the reason we engage in that kind of motivated reasoning is because rooting for that team or picking a side is an in-group tactic. It puts us in the group by supporting the team. And if you go, well, I don't care either way, well then you're now an outsider. And so belonging to the group is our motivation for practicing motivated reasoning. When you could look at the data and show that the referee did everything right, but our perception is colored by our desire to be in the group.
Do you think it's intensified over the years more than what it was like centuries ago? And if so, do you think it's intensified more because companies have learned to take advantage of that group sensation and are pushing it more, and that's why it seems like there's more people willing to accept things that are obviously can't be accepted?
That's I guess that's a good question, and I would almost say that the answer is yes. Like, have you watched advertising lately?
Yeah.
You know, I've noticed for a lot of like phone companies now, right? So the big giant in the room is always Apple computers and Apple iPhones, and so they've started this marketing strategy of showing how people can how it's okay. Their strategy is it's okay to be outside of the group.
Yeah.
Like it's
Like
okay
they
to
show
be
that
outside.
line.
Like where they have the commercials where they show the people like in line for the new Apple product, and then the other guy's out of the line. I mean, they're like, and they even have like there's a barrier set up. Like these are the one guys in the group. This is the other guys in the group. And
And he's like, "Why don't you just join me now? I have it now."
Yeah, like I think that I don't know. Maybe advertising companies are getting savvy to it, and they're going to take advantage of it.
I mean,
I think that plays to a very unique American perspective on individualism rather than, social cohesion. We all want to be individuals and sort of make our own way in the world rather than be part of an in-group. At least
well, that barrier
at a conscious level, we do. At a subconscious level, I mean, we all want to be part of the in-group. That's how society works. That's why we don't all live in caves and grunt at each other when we see other humans.
Well, you just made a group assessment just now, saying it's only an American thing. I mean, that idea is
I think
growing
maybe
smaller,
not
faster.
American, but very distinctly Western.
Yeah,
and I would say
because the other ones are just
predominantly
medieval
American,
heathens. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I don't know. I guess we do like this balancing act of on one hand we want to be part of the group, whatever the group may be, and on the other hand we also want to stand out as individuals, and so I think our day-to-day lives are navigating between those two competing desires.
I mean, it's obviously you can look at any subculture in any society, and take punk rock, for example, worldwide, not just in America, and especially the anarcho-punk. I'll fall into this group, and that's why I can talk about it. But especially the younger generations of it, they want the individuality, they want the independence, but they all look the same.
Right.
They all have the hawk. They all, they're either charged or
right.
died.
I'm an individual, just like you.
Yeah, and that's not to point a finger and say what losers. That's pointing a finger and saying this is no different from the rest of society. We're all the same. I mean, even the show, we're all three of us are at different levels of atheist belief.
Yeah, but
and I find myself outside of most of the thought of it because I'm just at a different level and I have a different perspective on it than what you and Ken have on it. I'm an outsider in that thought, but we are a group to bring together to bring these ideas.
Yeah, well, that's fine. And like I said, I think that our day-to-day lives are spent, in pursuit of those two competing goals: be an individual, be part of the group.
Yeah.
And in the larger picture, in the larger context of the discussion, is that it's that desire to be in the group, which fuels motivated reasoning.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just in thinking about those Galileo Was Wrong people, I can face palm and beat my head against the wall all day long, and like, oh my God, they're so wrong. I mean, like literally things that this person says in this article are demonstrably false. It's false. It's not even it's. I mean, there's some instances where they miss the nuance of it, or they they're unclear on the concept. But some things are just false. It's just not true. And I wanted to know why. I want to know, how could somebody not think this, or how did they do this?
As we mentioned on the last episode when we were talking about this, they do interviews. One of y'all needs to reach out to them and try to get them on the show.
Yeah, I know, but and I don't know. I'd like to talk to them, but I don't think that I'm gonna have a conversation with them, and I don't think it's gonna go like I think it's gonna go, where they go, "Wow, Bob, you're so smart. I can't believe I didn't think of this."
But I don't think maybe your goal is to try to change it, but to just enlighten ourselves, enlighten our listeners who don't know. I mean,
I do want to understand that mindset, but I don't know. I don't know.
The only way we're going to know is instead of we can read about it all day. It's not until we can sit down and get inside somebody's head about it.
Yeah. Well, I guess it would be like when we had Brother Mike on. I was just like open-jawed amazement at the things that he had to say, and I couldn't even respond.
Or it could be like when we had your friend that was in the Peace Corps. We thought we were going to come in one direction
true.
And completely went another.
Yeah. You never know until we get there.
We'll have to set it up.
Yeah.
So that's it. We have to set it up.
Do it.
Bob, contact them.
I won't like it, but I'll do it.
Okay. I had a cat scratching my hand.
Oh yeah.
It's like you always say, Bob. Don't let the facts get in the way of a really good story.
Yeah.
It's sort of like you were saying. There's things that are just like demonstrably false. It's absolutely wrong. They're just totally wrong about this fact. And it's if the facts don't work in your favor, just make some up.
Yeah, but I don't think in this instance, I don't think they made things up. They misunderstood things, or they left things out, or they spun things in a way that was favorable to their conclusion. And but I don't think they made things up. They didn't. It was like what do we say the other time? Like if I squint my eyes and turn my head sideways, I can make it look like any way I want. And I think that's what they're doing. But they're, again, like we said, they're motivated to do so.
Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you take us through some of the facts that you found, if you can remember any of them off the top of your head?
The glaring one was the no intermediate fossils, which I don't know what that had to do with geocentrism, but and then they talk about So they're espousing a geocentric worldview, and they talk about when they did the cosmic background radiation experiment. If you look at the data one way, it would appear as though the Earth was the center of the universe, but then she says, and then they had to invent this thing where they invoke the curvature of space-time. And what they do, and it's true, space time is curved. It's that's why you can measure pick any three stars in the sky, measure the angles between them, and it's more than 180 degrees, right? Whereas if you have a triangle on a page, on a two-dimensional Euclidean geometry page, it'll always be 180 because it's Euclidean geometry. Space is flat, and so the way the person tells the story is that the cosmic background radiation experiment confirmed a geocentric universe, and so rather than go with that data and say, oh well, it's geocentric, they had to invent a curvature of space-time to say, like, oh no, that's what it would look like, only space-time is curved, and so now we're not the center of the universe. And that's wrong in that that's not exactly how it happened. And the curvature of space-time solves lots of other problems too, not just that one. It's not like it's not like somebody cooked that up out of thin air to ignore something that was paradigm shifting. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's it's definitely I want to say blinders, but we've been using that too much. It's definitely special pleading. Like, ignore the things you don't want to talk about, and then just focus on that one aspect of something.
Well, right, and like I said, more importantly, I mean, like I said, we could, I could sit with a paper in one hand and just Wikipedia every little bit and say, like, well, that's wrong. But what I wanted to ask myself was, like, God, wow, like, this person that's writing this paper, they're committing logical fallacy after logical fallacy after logical fallacy, just one after another, and they pretty much cover the gambit of all logical fallacies. It even, they even resort to, like, ad hominem attacks, and I'm just like, why do they do this? And so now I think I have partially an answer, or at least an understanding of why.
Well, let me give you the Volume 1, Volume 2 encyclopedia that they created.
Yeah.
I'll send that your way after the show.
Anyways, I don't know. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, just because I thought it was interesting, and it I don't know, understanding how the other guy thinks is, I don't know, I guess that's just key.
Yeah, well,
it prevents you from falling into the same pitfalls.
That's why I do a lot of the writing that I do, is understanding that other side and what they think. And it's funny because, like, it's such a spectrum. We could have Matt on here again and talk to him about it, and he's obviously not a young Earth creationist or a flat world person or a geocentrist.
Not yet.
Not yet. But he sort of falls into that same, spectrum of belief, where he believes a lot of the same things they do, but he comes to different conclusions about it. And it's almost like, he's a little more comfortable with the facts that don't fit, or at least some of the facts that don't fit. Whereas these people, it seems like they're so entrenched in, literalism of the Bible, that if they give up even, one tiny little mote of literalism to, something as simple as just saying, hey, nomadic shepherds in the in the 7th century BCE didn't really understand astrophysics. It makes their whole belief system just crumble.
Yeah. Well,
like,
I think some of it too is like this belief that I think that the religious person feels that the white lab-coated scientist wakes up every morning and thinks to himself, all right, now how can I disprove the Bible today? Like, I think that that's what they believe motivates people into science, is that they're seeking to disprove someone else's religion or faith. When really, I don't think science cares at all. They don't give a shit about that. They're seeking the truth wherever it may lead.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It just so happens it leads in the opposite direction.
Yeah, if science were to happen to lead towards God, that would be the direction they took. Right. Science is the path, not the destination.
Yeah, it is. It's following the truth, and the truth is evidence, wherever it may lead.
Yeah.
I don't know. So there's that. I don't know, and I don't think that that's necessarily how the world works, but that's the perception of this person that wrote the paper. And I don't know, who writes a paper and doesn't even put their name on it. I don't know. Didn't even say who it was by.
I know. That was common in, like, the 17th century, like, when you were writing under pain of death. If you
Yeah.
got found out, you know.
Well, maybe this was a document from back then. They just
Maybe.
put it online.
Well, right, and they even and one of the things that it's fairly recent because they talk about the CERN Opera project, and like even their understanding of that was wrong. The Opera project was the one where they were beaming neutrinos from CERN in Switzerland to a detector in Italy, and the neutrinos were arriving 60 nanoseconds before they should have, and exceeding the speed of light. And she was like, "Ha! Einstein was wrong. See?" And then it all falls apart. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works.
I mean, if you watch Star Blazers, you would know
Yeah,
that.
I mean, so it's recent enough to mention the Opera project, which honestly that's still unresolved. I mean, they think that it might be a systematic error, and the experiment was repeated in a way that they thought would make up for some of the systematic errors that were pointed out, and they still got the same result. So it's still unresolved. It hasn't been figured out yet. But just because that one thing is in question or is unresolved doesn't mean the rest of it falls apart.
Yeah.
I think it'll be
physics.
figured out, and I think it'll be just some kind of relativistic systematic error that was unaccounted for.
Yeah. I mean, or maybe it's something completely different. You know, maybe it's not an error, but we're measuring things incorrectly. You know,
right. And
measuring
not
length
like that,
when
but
we should
like
be measuring width. You know,
their understanding of that whole experiment, like they presented it as like a guy with a ray gun went boo, shot a neutrino, and then there was a guy in Italy with a stopwatch who was like, "Oh, that's too fast." You know, that's not how it happened at all. Like it's much more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But it sounds cooler with the ray gun.
Yeah. There's loads of room for error.
I thought you were about to say there are loads of ray guns.
Yeah. I don't know.
Only
So,
in our dreams.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope we could switch gears a little bit. I've never been more proud to live in Virginia than I have been this past weekend.
Woo!
Where
I can't even do
Virginia
it.
was the butt of a Saturday Night Live joke.
I'm sure that's not the first time.
It can't be the first time.
Yeah, it was great. I was like, Virginia.
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
you're referring to is Virginia passing a law,
Yeah.
making it where women who wish to have an abortion has to get a ultrasound before the abortion, 24 hours before the abortion.
Right, but it's not just an ultrasound, because at these early stages of pregnancy, when people say, "Oh, it's just an ultrasound, no big deal,"
It's just on your belly. It's
right?
not.
That ain't it. It's
No.
an intravaginal ultrasound. So,
Yikes.
and it would be the first time that policy has dictated a medical procedure like this
Yeah.
for a woman.
And it won't be the last.
And this has
Snowball.
got to be overturned. This has got to go away. This is bad news.
So much for small government, huh?
Yeah, this is
I'm
really
voting
bad.
Republican. Oh wait.
That's
Amy Poehler did a
It's-
really funny really on SNL.
Yeah.
Really, Virginia? Really?
Amy Poehler's hilarious. And if anyone thinks Amy Poehler is not hilarious, then
Yeah.
I'm ashamed.
But how does this law get passed? And now I'm
Well-
I'm like digging in the bag. I'm like, well, what
Somebody writes
aspects
up
of
a
motivated
proposal.
reasoning or inferred judgment do people use when they justify passing this bill?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It seems like these sort of bills have been cropping up in a few states. I know Virginia's the first one to pass it, though.
I think it's going to get challenged. I'm sure it's going to get shot down. But just the very idea that our legislature would do this. It's appalling.
There was a time in my life when I would hear about things being brought in front of, governments. And I was like, this shit's not going to pass. There's no way. And they wouldn't pass. And now when shit's being brought in front, I don't know anymore.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
That's like, really, it's like, what the fuck? It's like the...
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way, Jason. Like, I used to be like, if I would hear about something that was just absolutely ridiculous coming up in some sort of legislature, I'd be like, there's no way that's ever going to pass. And now it legitimately scares me when I hear some of the things that get brought up, because they very realistically could get through with a almost unanimous vote.
Yeah, it was like this and indefinite detentions. I was hell bent. I was like, there's no way that the government would pass that. And then they pass it, and then I heard this. I was like, no, they've been doing this for years. It's not gonna pass. And then I think my goal is to stop saying it's not gonna pass.
Yeah. There's no level to the. There's no limit to the depths that the legislature can descend. This is terrible. In fact, when I saw that bill, I was like, they're not going to pass that. Yeah. No way. No.
It is Virginia, It is one of those bastions of...
I'm from Texas, and they don't even have this.
Oh, God. Do you remember a few years ago, Jason, I know you love The Onion.
I like it chopped up on my food.
But there was that Onion article about the abortion super center in Austin, Texas.
That's a real thing. That wasn't.
It's not.
No, it is. It's just hidden. Shh. We can't talk about
an abortion super center.
Listeners, it's not.
Those big churches that.
Do they do tire changes too?
Yeah, right. While you wait,
you can get married and get a gun as a gift in Texas. Why couldn't there be a?
That wouldn't surprise me if that was true.
That is true.
So there was a politician recently who saw that and thought it was real, and I guess did a whole spiel. And I forget which Republican. It was some Republican candidate for something that's coming up in the next election cycle, and I think it's hilarious.
That's not the first time that the Onion has put out their satire and somebody in the with some political influence has believed it, and I just have this picture of the offices in the Onion where they they read about that stuff, and the guy's like, we did it again.
Yeah. No, it's totally.
They have a scoreboard,
Yeah. We got him one more time.
But I think Republicans are doing this on purpose because when the internet was first became mainstream access, people were like, it's going to change the way people think. It's going to change their lives. It's going to make people smarter and blah, blah, blah. And I think the Republicans are saying we have to bring down this internet. So we're going to have to prove them wrong and show how the internet's making people dumb. Because I think the Republican Party is totally showing that by doing stuff like this.
That's an interesting thought because I really think that the aspiration was that the internet would make people smarter.
Yeah.
But
people said that.
It's allowed for the dissemination of really dumb information too.
And it's like the rise of the what was that movie?
Idiocracy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie.
I knew you were talking about that one.
I only watched the intro. The intro is the best part of it, and then I stopped watching it because it just got
that.
But the intro is awesome.
As far as movies go, as far as filmmaking goes, I would say it's downright inept. However, as far as writing and satire go, it is brilliant. Yeah. It is one of the most brilliant pieces of work out there.
Yeah, the premise is definitely excellent. Because I used to view the world that exact way. I was like, 50 years from now, this is what the world's going to be. All the smart people stop procreating, and all the dumb people keep doing it.
But it's still that.
So I was listening to these guys talk about speaking along those lines. There's been some stuff that was going on in Israel, where Israel is having a hard time, and Israel's not it's not a poster child for good behavior, but it's really
understatement of
I know,
our
right?
entire
But they're really having a hard time holding on to their position of being a secular state. I mean, it has a lot of religious people in Israel, and they have, but they maintain that they are a secular government and not a theocratic one, and they're having a hard time holding on to that because among their secular population, their birth rate is less than replacement. Like it's like 1.7 per couple.
That's normal for post-industrial nations, though.
Right. However, among the very religious and the Orthodox communities in Israel, their birth rate is like 8 or 9 children per family.
Mm-hmm.
So the secular population is diminishing, whereas the religious population is on a rapid increase. Just like in Idiocracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
All three of us, we're of the age where we very well could have children.
Nope.
Nope.
No way.
I said could. I didn't say should. I said could.
It's still implied.
And not just like little kids, like very well like into their school years.
Well, the youngest grandmother was just crowned recently.
What?
The youngest grandmother?
Yeah. How old was she?
I don't even want to know how old she is.
21?
21.
Yeah. Oh, 23, maybe. 21 to 23, but either way, it's still.
Grandmother.
Yes.
Classy. It's excellent. But yet, the Duggars have all three of us and our significant others beat with children,
Yeah.
Ah.
I think Bob's head just popped.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I am in favor of birth regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, you can't. I know, like we joke about it, but at the end of the day, I hate that I feel that way. What is it, Adam? I was listening to Adam Carolla, and he was like, some chick wants to crap out 5 kids and nobody gets it her way. He's like, I want to put up a fence in the backyard, and I got to go to court and get 3 permits. And
that's true.
It's true. It's true.
And what's more damaging?
It really kind of sucks because the population in our country, we have a very large country. We do. Land-wise, we're the 3rd largest country. But then, population-wise, we're the 3rd largest country.
Yeah.
We have over 300 million people, which is insane. 1,000 years ago, there weren't 300 million people in the world.
We just like to get busy, that's all.
1804. To put this in perspective, 1804 was the year that the world population hit 1 billion. This year, we're projected to hit the 7 billion mark. It took all of human history to get to 1 billion. That's roughly 200,000 years. Give or take 194,000 years if you're depending on your theological perspective.
Well,
and
depending on
in
who
the
you
last
ask.
200, we've increased that 7-fold.
Well, this is all you heathens, all the heathens' fault. This is all the scientists' fault. This is because if the scientists believed in God and stopped believing in their science, we wouldn't have such a high birth rate. We wouldn't.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, thinking along those terms.
Infant
right,
mortality, hurrah!
We're bitching about the this Virginia bill, like stay out of women's bodies.
And then now we're saying we need birth rate.
Right, you can't have it both ways. You gotta it's if you say you're pro-choice, that means you have to respect the choice, no matter what it is.
I respect the choice of not having babies and aborting the babies. Nothing.
Right.
There's the only two choices.
I'm pro-death.
You have the right to choose not to have the baby, but if you choose to have the baby, you have to have it aborted. That's it.
Yeah, that I mean, you can't. If that's the consequences, then you have to live with those, because that's the.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the.
I'm pro-choice, but I'm pro-informed choice.
Yeah.
You know, that's the
that's
thing.
taking it too far, Ken. That's taking it too far.
God damn it, you know. You know, people have the right to choose, but I feel, you know, the reason why
it shouldn't be as
people
easy.
like the Duggars exist is because they don't have the information to make an informed choice.
No, I think they do have the information. Their information is just the wrong source. Their information
Yeah, it's completely colored, which I would say that is not being informed.
I don't know what's going on in their head, but it's some kind of, I don't know, some kind of masochistic thing happening. They're
motivated reasoning.
Yeah, I know, right? Again, back to motivated reasoning. Maybe that's true. Maybe they're like, man, we're not going to be in the group. We're going to lead the group. We're going to be the shining example of the group.
Well, no, they just believe that, you know, you have to procreate to help spread God's word.
Right, but so here's the thing, right? As much as I think that they're crazy people, if that's what they want to do, then go for it. Do it. You know, have 10 more kids. Not the choice I'd make, but
I mean, it's no different from communes, you know.
Yeah. They're free to do what they want.
They could start their own commune.
They are
like
commune.
with just that family.
I would argue that it doesn't exercise good sense, but
a lot of things don't.
But
that's all I want.
Their
That's all I want,
prerogative
Bob,
to
is sense.
not have good sense.
Yeah. All I want is people to have a basic concept of, you know, common sense.
It's not going to happen.
I know.
Yeah.
Not anytime soon. But that's all I want.
I mean,
that's what I write to Santa for every year.
I mean, we can sit here and say that, but all three of us have fallen victim to it every once in a while.
Of course.
Absolutely. I mean, but that's part of what I was saying earlier, is that you have to recognize where your thought goes wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah. So all right, let's put it to you this way. Let's suppose there was a referendum or a bill that would require women to get some kind of state licensure to have a baby. Would you vote for that?
No, because one, it's always attack on the woman. It's never. It's always a political sexist move. Anytime it becomes a birth thing. Two, no, because it's no anything that deals with that abortion, anything that deals with birth, anything that deals with anything that is inherently naturally ours, that it's our birthright. No.
All right, well, Ken?
The solution isn't legislation; it's education.
I know, but I'm just throwing it out there as a for instance,
I
just to
wouldn't
see
vote
what you'd
for it.
say.
I think it's too forceful. I believe the idea of getting, you know, rather than putting legislation out and saying you can't do this, you know, as much as I absolutely hate, you know, say, you know, smoking. I think smoking is disgusting. I wouldn't want to see a piece of legislation that bans smoking. I would rather see more education to show people why it's a bad idea.
But it's hard
you
to
know?
have good education when the government and the corporations.
Oh yeah, of course.
And I wouldn't.
But I mean,
I wouldn't vote for such
for,
a bill either, because
for,
it's no business of the government to be involved in.
Up in your body.
Right.
All up in your shit.
Now that we're all on the same page about that.
Yeah.
But secretly, I would.
Yeah, secretly, I wish there would be something.
I would fund this bill, but I would not. No, I'm just kidding.
I would not vote for it, but I would put lots of money towards their campaign funding.
Just
right. So if there was a referendum to spend money on family education and family planning, they're like, hell yes, then I would vote for that.
Well, actually, you know what? I just said that anytime there's legislation on that, I would say no. But we talked about it last week about the Catholic Church denying health care to people, to offer health care because you have to offer condoms if somebody wants it.
They don't pay. It's not just condoms.
It's birth control.
It's birth control in general.
Yeah, and I would support that bill to offer birth control.
Right. You don't have to take advantage of it. It just has to be an option for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That really sounds close to the whole like creation evolution thing. We're not teaching evolution. We're putting both sides out there, and then they get to decide. But that's totally different.
It's totally different because this is a physical, real thing that you can touch, taste, and feel. Not that you'd want to.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. See, it's like we're walking that line. I'm on one side, then I'm on the other side.
But I think that's what logic and reason does. There are truthfully no sides. It's what is right. I mean, what is real as you perceive it.
Yeah, right, and it's not like there's a controversy over, effective birth control is a real thing. It's not like we're fighting over whether it works or not, or it's just. And the point of that legislation was, if somebody wants it, it should be available to them.
And are we supportive of that because we do want to encourage less reproduction, or is it because it just makes sense? If somebody doesn't want to have a baby but they want to have sex, they should have the right to have it covered in their health insurance.
Can I say both?
Yeah.
Can I say I like it for both those reasons?
Yeah.
And I guess what distinguishes this from the creation versus evolution debate is that, unlike creationism and evolution teaching the controversy, like this is an actual something worth actually discussing, something worth actually teaching. People have the right to have children, I mean, our species kind of depends on it, but at the same time they have the right to practice the methods without actually coming to having a child. I call it practicing.
What did they say on SNL that who did they mention? I want to say they mentioned Santorum and Romney, who opposed this bill, and said that the method of birth control that they practice is the rhythm method. But they have one guy has 3 or 4 kids, the other guy has 5 or 6, and Amy Poehler was like, they have less rhythm than we thought.
What was the comment that they were putting out there about the aspirin between the knees? That's
I saw that. That was Santorum, wasn't
it? Yeah, I think it was kind of all of them supporting it, but I think Santorum came out and said it, saying that was the only birth control you need.
It's just ridiculous. And, right, and you know what? It's one of those things too where the evidence suggests, all the study after study has shown that abstinence education does not work.
Well, it just shows that, depending on where you live, if you live in Florida and you put aspirin between your knees, it's going to last 4 or 5 minutes. The sweat's going to dissolve it, and then, what good is that going to do?
Then what are you going to do?
Then you're pregnant. Fuck.
Look how well it works, in the last presidential election, the whole abstinence only thing came right up.
Yeah.
We had a vice presidential candidate with a pregnant minor for a daughter.
Do they know that one of the side effects of aspirin is it makes your stomach bleed? I'm just saying. How is that? How is that? How can they? That's wrong.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's just a side effect of aspirin. How could you encourage people to have?
It's a figure of speech, right? It's not. Nobody's really holding an aspirin between their knees.
I know. I was just taking it because they obviously want us to believe that abstinence.
It's a metaphor.
I know. I'm just going along with it.
It's a really poor metaphor, but yeah.
Have you guys watched Bill Maher lately?
No. I should go to one of his tapings. He tapes here in L.A.
He's gonna be in 9:30 Club.
Speaking of
soon.
the political candidates, so did you know that Mitt Romney's father-in-law was he was like a research scientist for NASA, and he was an outspoken atheist.
Yeah.
And he had some unkind things to say about religion. And after he died, as is the Mormons want to do so, after he died, Romney and his wife had him posthumously baptized into the Mormon Church.
Yeah. Mormons like this post-death baptism thing.
So,
it's just so you can get accepted into heaven.
On Bill Maher, he put on a wizard's hat, like a little, I don't know, he looked like some funny version of Dumbledore or something, and he debaptized him on television.
He's under the guise of that. If they can get away with crazy shit, so can we.
Yeah, That was hilarious. That was probably one of the funniest things I've seen all week.
With that said, we should just go out on that.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is about that time. So what do you guys think about motivated reasoning? Well, you can give us a call and let us know, 757-337-2195. You can email us at thisnonreligiouslife@zombie-popcorn.com. Like us on Facebook, This Non-Religious Life. Find us there. Google Plus. You can rate us on iTunes. Leave comments there. Give us feedback. What you think we're doing? What you think we're doing wrong?
Not having enough babies. That's what you're doing wrong.
You guys don't have enough kids. You don't realize the miracle of God's creation. You can listen to us on Stitcher Radio. Just download the app to your phone, and you can stream everything. No downloading, no syncing, which I think is working really well for us because last time I checked, we were rated pretty high on there. So that's excellent.
Yay.
Thank you. I think that's just about it. Everyone should keep an eye out for my book, which is coming out. I'm showing a picture of it on camera because I have my proof copy here. And just pay attention, and we'll see you next time.
I like the pay attention aspect. Have a good night. Bye.
Good day.
Jesus got out here.
I thought I was a good Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. Jesus got out here. Then I read that Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I'm a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very lies the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies.